Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
What is your fondest memory or memories of touring? I really like touring a lot. It's hard for me to tease out just a memory from touring. I have so many good ones.
But do you remember, Joe, when we first started touring, you didn't like it?
I remember when I didn't like it, but even on that first tour, I had good times. I have fond memories of being in Texas, meeting Glass Eye again, hanging out with them, meeting Daniel Johnston and riding in the van with him, and seeing him play for the first time. Yeah, I didn't have a great time on our second and third and fourth tours. I have memory of certain places I liked, like the living room in Providence, because for one, there was always a home-cooked meal there. One of my fondest times with the Milkmen was when we had a hotel that was near a Carvel ice cream shop. Do you remember that? And we ordered a Fudgy the Whale to have after our show. And it's the only time I had a Carvel ice cream cake. Okay, my fondest memory though was, for some reason, it was with the Low Budgets on our 2003 tour in August. It turned out to be the height of our career. Everything went to hell after that, believe it or not. But, I used to work during tour. It's kind of crazy to explain, but I worked on the computer, and it was hard to even get any time off back then at my job because we were so limited and it was such a small company. I managed, because August was our slowest part of our season, especially the beginning of August, to make a deal where I only worked 3 hours in the morning at like a Starbucks. And every show was organized where I would be dropped off at Starbucks in the morning and then picked up and we'd go to the show. And for some reason, we ended up at this show in Bristol, Vermont, really early on a Friday. And it was at, I don't know, it was a DIY show at a shack near.
Red Barn or a Green Barn.
Right. How you remember it was
because we looked for a green barn, but it was actually a red, or it was the other way around.
It was one color, but it was not the color we were looking for. But we found it anyway near skate park, and they said, "Oh, you're really early, but there's this place where you can hang out. Everyone goes swimming there." So we went to this place. It was where these falls were, and it was really beautiful. And it was a pretty hot summer day, but it was people were jumping and diving into this pooled area after a waterfalls in this stream. And I don't like to be seen in shorts or anything in public. So I just watched, which is probably good. But,
you know who else likes to watch? Jerry Falwell Jr. Sorry.
So we played the show. We went back, played the show, and then Chris said, "Let's go back to after the show." He said, "Let's go back." We didn't find a place to stay. We usually find places to stay, but for some reason we didn't.
And for some reason, it sounded like a great idea when Chris said, "Let's go back to that swimming hole."
We remember where people were jumping in, and for some reason, Chris just jumps right in. And there was no one else out there, so I decided to disrobe and jump in myself. It was pretty risky. Maybe I had some liquid courage, but I didn't die. I didn't hit any other rocks, and it was fun. And swam, and we went under the falls. And since we didn't have any place to stay, we slept on rocks in the woods. I found a nice little rock, and I slept pretty well, pretty soundly. And I woke up, and the sun was up, and there was nobody else was there anymore. I thought everybody had abandoned me, but it turned out they had merely gone into the van to sleep.
Also, the plot of Blue Lagoon. It's the same thing. It's Blue Lagoon in Joe's story.
I could have been eaten by wolves, who knows, but it all worked out, and it's a fond memory of mine. Okay, I guess Dan's next.
Help me, Dan. Help me.
No, it's interesting because I have a lot of really fond tour memories with the Milkmen, but it's funny to think that the fondest ones are like with the Low Budgets in a different way because there were so many things that went wrong. constantly.
My worst memories are with them as well.
Yeah, and like trying to find places to stay and mostly getting them, but sometimes when you don't, you know, you don't, and you end up on a rock in Vermont or being led to Hobo Beach. We were in St. Louis, and we were playing this really cool like art center. We had to go to the next town wherever it was. I don't know, but on the way out, this was like 9 o'clock in the morning. Chris was like, "Hey, let's go to the arch and go up to the top of the arch." I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And maybe that was 2005 because I think Pat was with us. But so Chris and I were the only ones that were going to go up to the top of the arch. And we didn't, you know, have much money. Then we decided we were going to tell the people at the arch, we would find the right like young looking person and say we were in a band on tour and that we were Sum 41. And I think the joke was that Joe was 41 at the time, and we were like, "Well, some 41-year-old is in the band." That sounds like a Chris joke. That was probably his idea. But so we actually did do that, and it was a kid, and he was like, "Really? Oh my God, I love you guys." And we were like, "Yeah, man, you think you can give us like a discount?" He was like, "Yeah, dude, I'll get you in for like, I don't know, $10 total." And it was like something like $25 to go to the top of this thing. And he was like, "Can you sign these things?" So we signed our actual names, and then we went and got in line. I forgot to mention, Chris had a kazoo this whole time and was using it most of the time when he wasn't talking, and you know how a kazoo sounds. So, you know, everybody in the van thought it was funny for a little while, then got annoyed. But then people at there's a national park site. There are people that didn't think it was that funny in line. And when Chris and I were next to go into this little capsule. You go in. I don't know if any of you guys have been. So Chris ran in and starts blowing the kazoo, and this guy comes up into the capsule before I did and whispered something to Chris, and Chris flipped out and started screaming like profanities, and I was like, "Oh, okay, it's time to go." So we start like walking away, and then we see these 3 like rangers running at us, and I was like, "Okay, Chris, we really have to go." So we start running out, and then later we find out, you know, Joe and Steve and Pat were standing right outside of the entrance of this, and they just see us come running past, and then these like 3 park rangers. The guy tackles Chris. We didn't have anything on us, like any kind of alcohol or drugs or anything. I think Chris had like a Sharpie or something.
We had a kazoo. I mean, that might be illegal. Yeah.
He had the kazoo, and he was playing "Go Tell It on the Mountain" at the time that this guy whispered into his ear. Allegedly, the guy said, "If you play that again, I will kick your fucking ass." And Chris was like, "What?" and started screaming. And
that was one of my least fond memories, actually, being on tour.
Yeah, I have a lot more that are worse than that, I think.
We have a no kazoo rule in the tour bus.
Hardcore no kazoo rule.
No kazoo.
Plenty of shenanigans, though. It's
oh yeah. I guess it's my turn. I wanted to mention something old and something new. Something old, one of the funnest tours we ever did was in the early 90s. It was the Amuck in America tour with Mojo Nixon and the Toad Lickers and the Cave Dogs from Boston. The 3 of us were all on the same label on Enigma Records. Fuji Film sponsored our tour and supplied the money for 2 tour buses. We had the good boy tour bus and the bad boy tour bus. And there were about, I don't know, 20 or 25 of us on that tour. And it was a lot of fun. We got into lots of hijinks and played some great shows and a lot of fun. So that was a really, really fun tour. Something new, a more recent tour, I think it was just last year, we did a little 3-day tour out west. We played in Portland, in Phoenix, and in Denver. And all 3 cities were awesome for different reasons. One in Portland, which I think was the first show, Joe and I are normal participants in an event here in Philadelphia. Well, sadly it's no more because the band broke up. It's called the Pigments Orchestra. And they had their last performance while we were on that tour. We dialed up on Skype while the Big Mess was on stage. And Joe and I performed a song while we were in Portland upstairs at the club. And that was a lot of fun. And then the next night we went to Phoenix, and I think, Dan, you have a friend that works at one of the most amazing museums that I've ever been to, the Museum of Musical Instruments. And we got into town, I guess, in the morning, and we checked into the hotel and we hopped into our rental van and we drove out to the museum. And I tell you, folks, if you ever get a chance to go to the museum, it's like connected to Phoenix. I don't know. It seemed like we drove out of town a little bit to get there, but I don't know. We spent like what, 3 or 4 hours there, and we could have easily spent the whole day there.
Yeah,
we were like, who cares about the show? We just want to stay here for all day. But the Museum of Musical Instruments in Phoenix was an amazing, fun day for us and a great trip. And then the last show was in Denver. We played an old theater that had, I guess, been slightly restored. And the fun thing for me about that is that our old friend Jackie, who used to do the catering at the First Avenue Club in Minneapolis, flew down with her daughter Kaylee to see us. We haven't seen her in like 25 years. And she presented us with a cake that she had made with a picture of us on it. And it was really great to see her and meet her daughter. And we had a fun show that night. So that was a really good 3-day little jaunt that we did. I think it was just last year. So anyway,
I'm going to just curtail my stories to the Dead Milkmen. I've only been out on tour with a couple of other bands, so you won't be getting to hear the backstory behind this. You won't be getting to hear about the House of Feral Cats. You won't be getting to hear about I should put a link up, the most dangerous hotel in the world, which is in Rosedale, Maryland. Hello, everybody in Velvet Acid Christ. Just going to stick to the Milkmen, and I'll tell 2 very quick and very new LA stories. Dan witnessed some of one, and you all witnessed all of the other. So what happened was there's a gentleman, and he's been mentioned on the show a bunch of times. Him and Stephen Arch are running neck and neck. Our friend Ed from Gentleman Junkie, and Ed was I was a club called Bar Sinister. I like to go after we play. I like to go out, generally BDSM clubs, but I like to go out to like goth clubs and stuff like that. And so Ed says, I can get you in. You don't have to get in line. You can go around. And normally I don't do that sort of thing because it seems kind of starish. But we had a bunch of people with us, and it was going to be fun. So we get there, and they say, okay, come on through. So it's like the David Bowie treatment. All of a sudden you feel good. Now the whole way there, a friend of mine, Ken, is complaining. He's going, Rodney, why do we have to always go to your clubs? Everybody wears black clothing. Everybody wants to kill their mom and dad. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And he keeps complaining all the way in. Oh, my God, look, yeah. And we get in, and he sees the dancers, and he's like, okay, we can stay here. So because we had a show the next night, I don't drink between shows. At the end of the tour, I go insane. But between shows, I don't drink. And they were well, what do you want? And I'm like, Red Bull. Just give me a Red Bull so I can go out and dance. And they kept putting Red Bulls in my hand all night long. If I would put my hand back like that, they would put a Red Bull in it. So I probably drank 30 Red Bulls and was legally insane. I was out dancing all night. Meanwhile, they asked Ken and our other friends if they want to go up to the fetish room. I've seen enough fetish rooms, trust me. And so they're like, yeah. So they come back and they give us a report on it the next day. But they while this is happening, my friend Kelly, who you'll never give away a lady's age, but she was a little bit older than the guy who was hitting on her. It's the guy in his 20s hitting on her, and he's like, and she's trying to get me to push the guy away, and I'm filming the whole thing. I'm like, saving this for posterity. So finally she freaks out, and at the top of her lungs, just as the music drops, goes, I don't know what your mommy issues are, but you better get away from me. So then the next day, I wake up and I check my phone because everybody goes home, and there's a message from my one friend, and it just says, why are there handprints on my ass? So that's the beautiful story of Bar Sinister. It's a great club. If you get a chance, go there. All right. So the last time we're in LA, and these are pretty fresh stories. Our friend Dan Mapp is also in LA at the same time. Dan Mapp is the backbone of the Dead Milkmen. He does our sound. He's our tour manager, and he's just a great guy. And he tour manages for a lot of bands, and he had been out tour managing for the Monkees, and the Monkees loved him. So what happened was Mike and Mickey went out on tour together because Davey had passed away and Peter Tork was not feeling well. Now, oddly, Peter Tork had once said that the plan for the Monkees was to keep going as they died off. So eventually there would just be one guy left and he would come out and go, hey, I'm the Monkey, but I love the Monkees. So Dan Mapp says, hey, would you guys like to come see the Monkees sound check? You know, or Mickey and Mike sound check, Mike and Mickey. And yeah, of course, you know, we want to do that, you know, so we do our sound check and we meet up with everybody and we go over. Now, what they do is they charge, or you pay a little bit extra for your ticket and you get to sit in on their sound check. It's like a special VIP thing. We didn't pay, obviously, but we got to go in and see this. And this is like, you would think it's not worth it to see a sound check, but it is worth it. Mike and Mickey were so funny. Mickey starts talking about how Last Train to Clarksville was not a big hit in Hawaii because Hawaii's islands and they don't have trains. And they have trains in Hawaii, but the audience isn't getting this. It's gonna, and Mike and him are laughing at this. And then Mike's talking about some guys, sadly, he passed away sadly 2 years ago. Or maybe he passed away happily. I don't know. I wasn't there. And we're losing it. We're cracking up. This is the greatest thing we've ever seen. We're just so happy to be there. So they go, and Dan comes down to talk to us. Now, what I'd kind of forgotten in all this was that Mike Nesmith and I share a mutual friend who's a very off-the-wall kind of guy. I didn't think this was ever going to come up. So Dan moves us all downstairs. And he's like, yeah, Mike wants to talk to you. And I can't process this. There is nothing in my head that says Mike Nesmith of the Monkees is going to speak to me. There is no, and to make it worse, they line us all up so we can see Mike and Mickey eating their food. And it's like watching the Statue of Liberty and the Liberty Bell both eat. I mean, it's just like your mind is blown. They're such a part of your life. So I'm like, and so they call up and Mike starts talking. I go up to Mike and Mike starts talking to me. He's very nice. And I'm trying to break the ice. Wound up talking about the Daily Nightly, which was the first ever big hit in the U.S. to have a synthesizer on it. It was actually Mickey playing the synthesizer. And Mickey's putting like mashed potatoes in his mouth. I'm like, oh my God, Mickey has acknowledged my existence. And so Mike starts talking about how they don't have the synth live. So he makes the noises with his mouth. So Mike is making the noises with his mouth. And my mind is completely blown, but I'm also like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And then so Mike is like asking me, he's like, well, how do you know our friend Keith and all this? And I explained I was on a pilot for a TV show with him. And he's like, are you an actor? And I say, no. Kids, I suck at self-promotion. If Mike Nesmith ever asks you if you're an actor, say, yes, I'm a great actor. Like, if you know anybody that's hiring. So he pulls out a chair for me to sit down and my knees lock. And I realize I can't move. I literally cannot move and sit. So I made a complete ass of myself. He's pulled out the chair to sit down and I was completely paralyzed. And it goes on. I make some guttural noises for a bit. And eventually I realized I'm so scared. I'm like, oh, I think we go now. And then I left and we all left. And we went up and got our picture taken up on the stage with everything. But just to prove it happened, there it is right there. Working. Yeah, it's the Mike and Mickey show. Yeah. So that was the thing that actually happened. One of my fondest memories, we all got to see the Monkees and then go down and watch them eat.
I have exactly one recommendation. It is a newsletter called it's the Hightower Lowdown, written by Jim Hightower. I don't know if you know who he is, but it's kind of political, but it's really short and easy to read. It comes once a month, and you can also read it online. This August issue is about workers' rights and how Trump is pouncing on them. But there's already a September issue. I just haven't got it yet, and it's about voter suppression.
I'm the centerfold in the September issue. Let's pull that out.
Nice.
I'm going to recommend Well, Chrissy, my wife, Chrissy, is starting to help someone with an up and coming like apparel company called Oddballs, and it's Oddballs for everyone. It's some of the proceeds go to charity, and they are basically like kind of anti-bullying. It's for anybody who ever has felt left out and stuff. They right now they have masks, like you know, masks and bracelets. I think you get a free bracelet with a mask. They're waiting on a shipment, but there are some available at like it's a Institute Bar in Philly, and Rock and Roll Knife Fight, which is a store in Lansdowne. So they have that stuff, and they're going to be doing more. And I think there's a Facebook page too. Check out. But it's good. I think like I'm not sure exactly what the extent of Chrissy's involvement will be, but they just started talking about it and kind of moving forward.
Working on a bunch of music projects, and I have to say that one of the VST synth that's in my template in Cubase is Arturia's Pigments VST synth. It's an amazing synth that has a lot of LFO capabilities, and you could assign just by sort of dragging things to another thing, you can connect things and make these amazing sounds with it. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like my little sketch bag. Sometimes when I try and work on stuff, I usually call it up and just play around with different sounds and tweak it and things. And more often than not, I'm able to come up with an interesting sound on it. You know, just to get me started. Sometimes it ends up in the final mix, but other times it just kind of gets me going. So yeah, I mean, I and like I messaged, I have it in a template. If you use a DAW, I highly recommend that you create your own little starting template so that you don't have to connect all your sound sources every time you start a new project. So they're right there and ready to go. Anyway, that's my recommendation.
This is a tough week to recommend just one musical recommendation because the last 10 days have been incredible. Really, like one of the probably more good music than we've had in the last couple of years, just out in the last 10 days. Got brand new Rosetta Stone, first Rosetta Stone album in 25 years. It is fantastic. New Clan of Zymox is pretty damn good. New Stoneburner is great. New Boot Blacks, heavily recommend that. New Seeming album is out and it's really good. And that's a wide array of stuff right there, folks. The winner for this week who gets the recommendation is REIN, R-E-I-N. I don't know. Hopefully folks are familiar with her. She's been around for about 4 years. She's been doing like one-offs here and there, like, you know, EPs and single releases. You might know her from like Can't Handle Me or a Capitalism song. Very aggressive, very boom, boom, boom. The young lady is brilliant. I mean, she's a great producer, great writer, just fascinating to see on stage. Heavily recommend her new album. It's called Reincarnated, or REIN Incarnated, as some people like to pronounce it because it's R-E-I-N is her name. But just really, really great. I've had it on repeat. About 90% of the musicians I know have had it on repeat. I literally cannot recommend this enough. I spend a lot of my time kind of looking in the rearview mirror to see like who's sneaking up and about to overtake us. And yeah, REIN is like in my rearview mirror right now. Really, really brilliant. If you think of punk rock as being an attitude and not the instruments played, this is a punk rock album. I heavily, heavily, heavily recommend it. Go out and if you listen to it on Spotify, she'll get 0.0000 cents for every play. Maybe go to Bandcamp, listen to it, and then buy it. You'll love the entire album. It's that good.